Johann,
Julius?
and today we are touching on something a little bit different because we've been demonstrating how you can use Usable to manage CRM systems, ticket management, time tracking, essentially using as a content management system. But now we're kind of diving further into how for like the developers of the
Yes.
world and how they can use Usable in their day-to-day workflows.
And how we are using it as
And
well.
yeah, exactly. We'll give you a little sneak peek of how Usable is made.
Mhm.
And that is essentially, if you know what this is already, but it is to develop or utilize a tool where you can have an AI code review for you.
Yeah.
And with that comes this handy tool that's been made by Usable, or Yul has been working on it with Usable, which is called Usable PR Validator. So I was wondering, could you mention just briefly what this is that we're looking at?
Yeah. So essentially, this is you're asking an LLM to review your code that you produce
Okay.
and compare it against a set of standards that you define. So it's like not a generic code reviewer. It's more of this is specifically targeted for you, and that could
Yeah.
be like security context or code quality or anything that requires like a validation or a QA
Okay.
phase.
And in a way, it very much becomes the idea that you are building a validation process that is very specific to your needs and your
Yes.
business and your structures and
Normally you have a person do this.
yeah.
Either it's part of the development team or you have a QA. But instead you can instruct your LLM to do that.
Yeah.
And right now it's Gemini, but in the future we will add multiple providers.
Okay. Yeah. And I think the pipeline will be running, and anyone who's worked with pipelines before know that it takes a while to run any
Yes.
pipeline. So I think we'll just set it up, and then we can talk during the
Yeah.
while the pipeline runs.
Yeah, and then you can go to the marketplace to see the
Yeah, it is actually on the
yeah,
marketplace.
on the GitHub marketplace, and then you can go through the step by step there.
Yeah. So you can just literally find it on the GitHub Actions marketplace in GitHub.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what a pipeline is, there are 100 tutorials on how to set them up, and there are various different ones depending on what tool you're using. We're using GitHub, and therefore it's GitHub Actions. And if you'd love to see this tool in some other pipeline tool, then feel free to write us on our Discord channel. But in that case, essentially all you have to do is follow this tutorial or this guide, which is about 5 minutes, where you end up setting up your Gemini API key, and so you can use Gemini in your pipeline, and then also a usable API token so that you can communicate directly with one specific workspace or several, depending on what your token can do. And I think essentially what we've done already is that we've taken down the company, the fictitious company we made for clarity, which is Acme Corp.
Yeah.
And so far we've just been pushing straight into main, which is a massive boo-boo for anyone who's developed before in a team. And instead we're thinking, let's just elevate this a bit more, where we have this PR validator to make sure that we have to go through the necessary processes. And to start with, I'll just point out immediately that I went through the guide beforehand so that we don't need to do all that setup stuff. And all you really need to do is create this PR validation YAML file and provide the Gemini account key and the usable API token. And we just added an additional step, which is using Gemini 2.5 Pro just so it runs faster and more reliably.
Yeah, it has more reasoning power, basically.
Yeah.
But you can use the Flash one if you have a simple task.
And it's also cheaper as well.
Yeah.
But all this does at the moment, or like if you're just looking at this, is that you point it to what workspace we're in. We pointed it at the Clarity one that we've been playing around with forever now. And this PR validation MD file that you can find under prompts.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of
that's basically the task list you give to the LLM or you would give to a person saying, this is what you need to check in order to pass this. And
you actually write it in human language,
yeah,
which is very different from other tools I've tried before.
Yeah.
And again, you can find this in the tutorial, but the key part that you need to consider in this video is that we added a task here under your tasks, which is that he has to review the pull request, like take the changes of whatever's been made, and then specifically look at a fragment that we made for this occasion, which is, if we go into usable, under clarity, in the clarity workspace, we go in knowledge. No, wait, it went into recipe, I believe. I already made a coding standard for Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And all I really did was ask the AI to look at the Orlando workspace, generate a coding standard based on what he thinks is a good standard.
Yeah.
Where we're touching on like BEM notations, how to write JavaScript, how to structure HTML, what like themes and stuff like that. So
essentially this would be your standards of working.
Yeah.
And if you have multiple sets of projects, for example, you have Next.js and you use Bon and etc., you would have standards for all of them.
Yeah.
You would have maybe a standards for the company, but and you could specify in that prompt that says, okay, use both standards for this project and for the general company, and then the LLM would take both into account. So it is very powerful. You can customize it quite a lot.
And again, you're just writing text.
Yes.
So it's not, oh, I can't find it. No, you just write it.
And the LLM that runs inside the action is instructed on how to use usable, what to call, what MCPs or tools to call, and etc. So you don't have to worry about it. Just have to tell the LLM what you want.
Yeah. And again, if it fails, then obviously it's just a validation error somewhere and stuff. Yeah. And I think we should just maybe try and
create a pull request and break it.
Let's just try and break something. So just to start out with, again, I mentioned that he has very strict standards of using BEM notation, which is a very common CSS notation for vanilla projects. And one thing to note here as well is that we explicitly told him to fail if any of these standards are broken, because this is a pure vanilla project and you really need to maintain the standards so they don't just go bananas. So I think we should just start out by making a brand new branch. So in this Acme Corp project, we'll call it
break standards. Break some eggs.
Break some eggs. All right, so we made that branch, and then we can tell the LLM, let's just tell them to, hey, I don't like the BEM notation. Can you please simplify it to basic CSS in the hero section, just so that we don't have to wait for hours for him to do this. All right.
And this case would be like if you have a developer that doesn't like your standards and tries to go their own way. It happens.
Yeah. Or in some cases where one of the staff members who is responsible to like train up a junior developer is on vacation, and he's not there to tell them what they are doing wrong.
Yeah. And of course, this is kind of like a contrived example where it's simple things, but consider like security issues.
Yeah.
Where because the developer doesn't know that you have a set of standards for security, and then you bypass those rules. That's a more like a major issue.
And we've already experienced ourselves that he has actually the ability to catch errors that are not just simple syntax errors, that he actually catches, this might be a security issue. You should probably patch this, fix this.
Yeah, internally we use Flowcore as the platform underneath Usable, and that has a Flowcore flow, that we call it. And since the LLM has the context of reaching into Usable and getting the fragments, we have standards of way of working where we go through a specific flow to get the events and get event sourcing working and all of that.
Yeah.
And that has implications on security and all of that. And by using this, the LLM actually captures those very complex interactions.
And I mean, it's also the whole thing of that when you develop for a customer that has very specific needs, your specific standards don't necessarily fit with their structure. And I saw that he changed a bunch of stuff here. Let me just close this window. I can see he actually moved away. He just made hero, container, content. He made it really gross. But we did ask him to do that. And therein also lies a massive issue with generally just LLMs. Because if you tell him to do something, he'll just do it.
Yeah.
It's not even questioning
it. You can, of course, add like specific rules to the project, but then what happens to the next project? And the next one and the next one, you have to copy the rules. And then if they change, you have to go back.
Exactly. So I think we'll just say, sure.
Go ahead.
Push it out, even though I hate it. And then we'll see what he does. And Cursor is so nice, he even asks to just make a pull request immediately. We'll say, sure, create the pull request. Again, these small little jumps between pull request branches and stuff, we're not really touching on those parts.
No.
So if I go to the Acme Corp project, I see there's a pull request. So if we open that one, there's two because I already tested this before. So this is the new one that we just created. And because we added that pipeline, we could already see he is working on something.
Yes. So there is a check that's running. Of course, right now your branch is not protected, but in a real production scenario, you would protect the main branch so you don't commit to it.
Yeah.
So that's like a GitHub thing where you can protect the main branch and don't allow anyone to commit to it and force a pull request, for example.
Yeah. So they always have to create a pull request, and that pull request has to go through a pipeline to be able to.
And this might take a while, depending on the change and depending on the files and all of that, depending on the model, depending on the day, because it's like if you're using a LLM that's very heavily used, then it will take longer.
Yeah.
But this is something that runs in the background just to verify that your changes are okay.
Yeah.
And we could go and like. What's different from this? There are a lot of code review tools here. For example, there's a built-in to GitHub, the Copilot one. You have Cursor that has a bug bot, and you have
the Code Rabbit one.
And all of them are like, yes, they can understand your repository, but they don't understand your standards that live outside the repository, because you don't usually have like a load of documentations in the repository. That's where it usually lives, in Confluence or somewhere else.
Exactly. And you always have to reference those design standards or those
so this speeds things up a lot. It's like it's not a one-stop shop where you don't have to look at the files. We're still not there where the LLM can do all the things right. But this gets you a lot closer to that step, and you can see the validation there.
He actually found immediately deviation from structures as naming convention BEM. Where he actually told me to revert the class names. I totally agree.
And this, you can see the status has failed, but if you scroll down, you can see that the pull request fails. And if you have a protected branch, you can't merge it in.
So I wouldn't actually be able to press this button. Exactly,
So you already have some protection there.
And it also kind of helps immediately with the idea that if I have to review, because generally when you're working with like super, what do you call it, like mission critical information or code, you tend to always want a human to look through it first. But having this process just find all the general issues allows me to go in and assume everything is up to standards, and I don't need to look at the standards or.
You can focus on the critical paths basically. And making sure that the code does what it does and so on, where it's like you've got a lot of help here.
Exactly. And he will actually look at things. So for example, BEM notation, that is just a concept that's been made up to make it easier to structure CSS.
And if you're not thorough enough, you would not catch that.
Especially if you got a like 68 files have been changed in this pull request,
something like that,
then this is very easy to follow through.
And this, like, if you fix that and run it through, it will pass and you can move on. But this is like, you can build around this. So for Usable, we have built around this using this GitHub Action. And then we've configured it for multiple steps. So we have multiple of these actions running at the same time. You can see you have one.
I have one ready right here.
And then if you scroll down, pass that one, we get
So
back to
this
that.
one.
So you have a security validation, right?
Okay, yeah.
The responsibility of this task is to check, okay, for security. It focuses on the security and trying to see, okay, are the routes that are being created secure enough? Do they bypass like the rules of the repository, the rules of the company, and saying, okay, we want to support both token and session-based authentication for the routes. It will catch that because that's a standard we've set for this project.
Yeah.
And then it goes through and mentions, okay, you can see there that, well, we improved the sanitation of these names because there was a bug in it, but we maintained the safety and did not like break the XSS protection.
Yeah.
So it did check that as a sanity check, right? And then if you scroll down, we have the standards validation. And this goes through what we did, like the styling, the Floker flow and all of that.
Yeah,
and in this
case, Unicode letters.
Yeah, and in this case, it's like, well, this is a simple change. But if it was a large one, it will say, well, I checked this and this is okay. Or, oh no, you're writing directly to the database. That's something that we've set. We don't do. We do event sourcing, so we write to Floker first.
Yeah.
So it will catch that and fail the build. And if you go up
to the top here,
to the top there,
kind of showed you the summary.
That's something we built on top, and this is purely like a prompt controlled together with reinforcement from Usable, where we say, okay, there are cases where the standards don't cover what you're actually trying to do.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a business decision that's forcing us to like, yes, this is a security issue if you don't want to do that, but there's a business decision and you're accepting the risk.
Yeah.
So you can ask the LLM, okay, this is an exception to this rule, but there are, in the prompt, there's a clear rule that says, okay, if you need to have an exception to this rule, you have to notate it. You have to create a fragment explaining why it's okay to do this. You have to explain who does it, who's approved it, what commit it's to, and there's an expiry on one of those that needs to be re-evaluated if that's still the case.
So this one right here.
And if you click on the fragment, it will say, okay, this is actually the violation, or these are allowed, these violations.
Yeah.
And why.
And this specifically to this.
This is like the state of this commit. Like this is a closed commit, so it's an older one, but it's like this is this commit references this state, and it's like this evolves all the time. So the next commit will take that state and validate it. So it won't like be stuck in some other old state or anything. It's always to keep the newest one, and that list will grow. And it will, like, once those have expired or once those are no longer relevant, they will be removed.
So in this case, he would use this one until it has reached the expiry
and
date.
There's also the case of, well, you can just, let's just make something up, right?
Yeah.
First, it's Git, so you have an audit trail of who made the commit. Secondly, if you just make up a commit that doesn't exist or it's not relevant to what you're saying, it will flag it and say, this is not a proper exception because it's like the commit doesn't exist or it's not relevant to what you're saying it is. So there's like a separate way of doing that. This is more of like when you have a product that's in production with a lot of customers, you don't want to break things and you need to be a bit more rigorous. And this is one way of doing that. That's completely under your control and completely like the violations exceptions part are documented and usable, so all the other codes, all the other projects see that have access, but it's targeted to this repo. So in other cases, like when you're developing new features and all, and in other projects, they still have access to this and say, okay, we should maybe not do this violation because it's not something we allow, and then you can skip this whole part, right?
And because this specific exception has been tagged as this repo specifically needs this exception.
Yeah.
But the next one would not have this unless you explicitly again say this one needs the exception.
Yes. Yeah.
And would he get a different expiry date, or would it just?
It's tied to the repo itself because it's a file in the repo that has that list that's valid for this project. So it's like, And this is like just an extension on use. It's the same PR validation action, just a different prompt.
And that's again because you can just kind of decide exactly what you
want
to do with it.
We're kind of treating it like a senior engineer or a QA person that's doing these evaluations, saying to it, this is our rules. You can look here where this standard is. You can look here where this standard is. Instead of it being a person, it's an LLM, and instead of being Confluence, it's usable.
So. Exactly, yeah. And I mean, I've already experienced myself. I made a change in Usable, which was I just changed the logo at the top because I was tired of the old one. And he actually came with suggestions on, you probably shouldn't do it that way. You should store it in this way instead, because this is just how you tend to do it. And I mean, I've tried CodeRabbit and I've tried BokBot from Cursor, and they're great, but they would never in a million years suggest that, because it's such an abstract concept that will not ever be found. And I mean, we do have a little cheeky snippet of just to demonstrate what you can do here, which is, again, it's just a prompt. You just you can basically just talk to the prompt. And from here, you can build whatever you want. And we would love to see if people take this to heart and try out the PR Validator, because we'll be using it everywhere ourselves. And if you have any really great ideas, you're welcome to post them on our Discord. We have an ideas forum that you can post in, or on our Reddit, r/usable dev, I believe it is. You can find everything on our socials, or our website. And just feel free to post all these details. I mean, it would be so cool as well to have a public workspace dedicated to standards, and then you can just point at those standards and then use your own internal standards on top of those. I mean, that it's just endless possibilities with this. And again, you're just writing text. There's no massive complicated linking mechanism where you have to go into settings and adjust, and you just write some text and then you're good. For example, just to recap before we end, is when I tried it the first time, I didn't tell him to explicitly fail them. And he just went, oh, well, you didn't use the BEM notation, so you probably should, but it's okay. Whereas I told him, now, just using text, this really needs to be explicit. You have to always follow the standards because this is a vanilla project.
And that was your choice.
And I mean, if you had some other project, then maybe this would not be as applicable. And if you have TypeScript and React, and like, will you support Python within your React project or not, and stuff like that. So I'd say just go ahead and try it, because this is just so easy to set up as well. And
it saves a lot of time.
And you don't need to bother everyone else with just your quick little iterations. And sometimes his review is just all you really need. You don't even need someone else to look at it. So do you have anything else before we wrap up? Because then I think we reached the 29 mark, so we're almost at 30. So I think with this tool, I would recommend you take the PR validation pipeline or actions, whatever you want to call it, but take this tool and go make something usable.